Planting tulips in a no-till or a no-dig way seems to have gained popularity over the last couple of years, as the no-till or no-dig movement seems to have just gained popularity in general. Every season, flower farmers tend to dig trenches that are kind of 4 or 5 inches deep and bury their tulips at the bottom and wait until spring to get those lovely tulip flowers for early spring flowers. Planting tulips in a no-till way is going to help us to repair our soils and protect our soils, and also to give us less work as well, because digging those trenches is not an easy task. And actually over the last few years I haven't grown tulips very much, and I think one of those reasons is because I always get behind on myself at this time of year, and I find it really difficult to bring myself to get those trenches dug and get those tulips planted, especially as I am working on my own on my flower farm. No-till tulips means basically that we're going to be laying our tulip bulbs on the ground or on a thin layer of compost, and then building up the compost on top of them rather than digging a trench and putting them down underneath the ground. So hopefully this creates a little bit less labour, and the tulips are still going to get the depth of soil that they need to flower properly. Once we've set up this new no-till bed, then we've got a new bed that we can use for our flowers. So I've got this section behind me that was actually originally a flower bed a couple of years ago, and I just let it go back to grass. But I've been wanting to reclaim this bed for a while now, because I've got a really wide grass path behind me that I don't need, and I would like extra space for growing flowers in. So this field here is mainly perennial flowers, but I am hoping to put a few more annuals back into it for 2023, because I want this field to be looking its best as we have the teepee in the background where we run all of our workshops. So I'm going to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. I'm going to be planting my tulips and preparing a bed for next spring for my annuals for next year at the same time. So I've got various tools and pieces of equipment behind me. I've got some cardboard that I'm just going to lay on top of the grass just to give that extra layer that's just going to kind of kill that grass off, hopefully. And then I've got some long pieces of decking boards which I'm going to make sides with for the bed, so that they can temporarily hold up the sides of the bed and give shape to the bed. I've also got some rods just to hold those pieces of wood into the ground, and I've also got my broad fork, because I'm going to try and broad fork the bed before we get going, just to try and decompact it a little bit, because I presume that this is pretty compacted. However, it has been a flower bed in the past, so I'm not sure how it is going to respond to broad forking, but we will see. So the plan of action is to broad fork, then I'm going to roll out the cardboard, wet it, add a thin layer of compost, and probably mix in some worm castings with that as well. As you know, with all of my plantings, seed sowings and things like that, I like to add in that extra element of biology. So hopefully we're going to do that with some worm castings, and then I'm going to put the boards up, lay the tulips on the ground, the tulip bulbs on the ground, and then barrow in lots more compost to bed the tulips down ready for next spring. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that I have just released the next of my new online workshops. So I have just released my Christmas wreath online workshop. So if you are interested in learning how to make a Christmas wreath, then that workshop is available now on my website. I will put a link down in the description. Broad forking done, onto the cardboard. It's really important to wet down the cardboard, because it helps with speeding up the decomposition process of the cardboard. Those microorganisms can all start swimming around on it and breaking it down, and there's less of a barrier between the dry materials and the soil that is slightly more moist. I am just going to hammer in some of these poles that I have handy, which were actually meant to be for a low tunnel, but will probably come in handy for this. So I'm just going to hammer one in either side of the board, and hopefully it will just temporarily keep it up. This isn't going to be something that needs to be in permanently. As soon as the compost has settled down and kind of found its shape on the bed, then I can remove the wooden boards and the compost should stay where it's meant to be. So this is just a temporary thing in order to get the structure that we want. I think that in the long run, having wooden sides on the bed would probably encourage slugs, and I have quite a big slug problem already in this field, and I don't want to make it any worse. This layer of compost that I'm adding is really thin. I'm only adding it just so that I can nestle the bulbs down into the compost and they're going to stay upright during the process. I'm also sprinkling a layer of worm castings on top of this just to add that extra level of biology. So it's getting a little bit dark now, and I was hoping to get some of the tulips in the ground and cover them over. However, I would like to do it all in one go, so I would like to plant out all of the tulips and then cover them with compost all in the same day, and it is going to be dark within half an hour, so I don't think there's any point in starting it today because it's just one of those jobs that needs doing all in one go. So I'm going to come back to this and I will see you next time in the morning. I'm back and it is morning, so we've got plenty of time today to get the tulip bulbs planted. Flower farmers mainly grow tulips as an annual, and to get the stem length they will pull the tulip bulb out of the ground at harvest time to get maximum stem length. So we can plant our tulips really closely together because we're not perennialising them, and it will encourage them to grow taller stems. So that is the plan for today. We are just going to cram in as many tulips as we can. I have finished planting the tulips for now. I am actually waiting for another order to come, but I'm just going to get these done first, get the narcissi done, and then I can add another block of tulips further down the line here. And I just wanted to discuss the varieties of tulips that I have planted this year and every year that I have grown tulips. And I usually go for kind of fancy varieties, double varieties, the parrot kind of varieties, because I want my flowers to stand out from the ones that you see in the supermarkets at springtime. So you'll see in springtime in the supermarkets some really kind of standard, just different coloured bunches of tulips that usually are sold really cheaply. So I want my flowers to really stand out from that, and I want my customers to come to me for something a little bit different. So that is all of the bulbs planted for now. Like I said before, I haven't gone big on it because I haven't actually sold tulips for a few years now because I never get really round to planting them, and they're not the most profitable flower ever, but I maybe need to do my maths on that next season when I start selling them. And yeah, it helps you to be reminded, or it helps your customers, to be reminded of you when you return in the spring. So if you haven't been selling flowers for 6 months of the year, then it's nice for you to come back into the scene with some nice spring flowers. Otherwise your customers kind of have to wait until May, June for your first hardy annuals to start flowering. So I am planning on reintroducing tulips back into the rotation because I do kind of miss out on the early spring sales every year. So that is those for now. I'm just going to cover those back over with 4 or 5 inches of compost, and then I'm going to carry on composting the rest of that. I'm just going to put a thin layer on because I have still got some more bulbs to come. So there we have it, guys. The no-till tulip bed is all planted up, or the first of the no-till tulip beds. I'm just waiting for another delivery, and as you can see behind me, I just didn't get time to put the compost on that cardboard, so it's looking a bit raggedy now. I think I'm going to have to just try and straighten it out as much as I can and put the compost on top. That's not ideal, but Things have been very busy here this week. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you are doing no-till tulips. I would love to know your experiences with it, and hopefully we will have a really nice bumper crop of tulips and narcissi next spring.